Cheers, friends.
Hey there.
Welcome to Universal Studios Hollywood.
Fan Fest night.
We're here for Universal's newest after-hours special event. Not Halloween Horror Nights. This is not about scary houses. This is all about fandom. Star Trek, Dungeons and Dragons, Harry Potter, Nintendo, and so many others. It's all about fun for the fans. This is a first of its kind event, and we're here for the first 2 nights, so we will cover it all from ticket prices, shows, merch, the experiences, everything that's involved, and if it's worth the price. FanFest Nights is a brand new after-hours event at Universal Studios Hollywood. It runs from 7 p.m. to 2 in the morning, and it's all about celebrating fandom. Sci-fi, fantasy, anime, and gaming. Now, this is not just an extended park night, no. It's its own thing, and you do need a separate ticket to get in, even if you're in the park during the day. This special ticket gets you access to exclusive walkthroughs, themed food, meet and greets, and plenty of spots to geek out. It did feel a little like Halloween Horror Nights. The same setup with special zones and limited time food, but no haunted houses, no jump scares. This one's for the fan, not the frights. So this year you'll find franchise zones for Star Trek, Dungeons and Dragons, Jujutsu Kaisen, Harry Potter, One Piece, Super Nintendo, and the highlight of the night, Back to the Future. And while each area has its own vibe, they're all open every FanFest night, so you don't have to pick just one. Now there are a lot of ticket types for FanFest night. General admission, express, VIP, after 2 p.m., 2-day, early access. It's honestly kind of overwhelming, especially if you're just trying to get the best value.
We originally went with the 2-day ticket, which brought the cost down to $55 a night. But we added early access for $20 a person to get in at 5:30. So we essentially paid $75 for each night, or so we thought.
This would have been a huge savings over buying 2 p.m. tickets, which start around $114 a piece. Luckily, Gina caught something in the fine print that Universal doesn't make very obvious on their website.
There are blackout days for the second day of a 2-day ticket. Basically, you can use them Friday, Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday, but not Friday, Saturday like we had originally planned. They always get you with that fine print. And these tickets, non-refundable, friends.
Thankfully, Andrew at Guest Services was kind enough that before we used either ticket to refund our 2-day passes, we ended up buying 2 general admission tickets instead and just kept our early access add-ons.
On FanFest nights, the park closes early. Most rides shut down to day guests by 5:30. So even if you have a season pass or a regular day ticket, you won't be able to access any FanFest experiences without an event ticket and wearing the wristband that proves you have it. Here's how it all breaks down. General admission gets you into the park and FanFest event at 7 p.m.
If you want in earlier, the early access add-on lets you enter the park at 5:30 p.m. and gives you first access to 3 zones: Star Trek, Dungeons and Dragons, and the Jujutsu Kaisen 4D show. Now if you buy the after 2 p.m. ticket, that one gets you daytime access starting at 2 p.m. and early access to those 3 events at 5:30. So you get a little more park time before the event starts.
And of course there's Express, that'll let you skip the line once per attraction, and Express Unlimited. That one lets you skip the lines as many times as you'd like. But from what we saw and experienced, Express really wasn't needed. The only long wait was right when the zones opened. After that, pretty much everything was a walk-on.
And there's yet one more option we didn't learn about until we got into the park, and it may not be available every night. But if you did buy a regular day ticket and you don't want the fun to end at 5:30, for $49, you might be able to add on FanFest Night access.
One of the coolest things about FanFest nights is that adults can dress up too. And Universal, they actually encourage this. But they do have a detailed cosplay policy, so you'll want to check that out and know exactly what's allowed before.
Universal is pretty clear about what's not allowed. We'll put a link in the description for you. You have to be fully clothed, shoes and shirts required, no real weapons obviously, or even fake firearms of any kind, including sci-fi blasters. Fantasy weapons are okay if they're foam or super lightweight. Face paint is okay, but if it covers more than half your face, they won't serve you alcohol. And no prosthetic makeup that covers anything but your forehead.
We thought the cosplayers looked really cool. It was a toss-up between Straw Hat Crew from One Piece and all the red-vested Marty McFlys for Most Popular. Some people really went all out.
If you didn't show up in costume, but you still want to get into the spirit, don't worry. Of course, there's plenty of merchandise right up front. There's a dedicated FanFest Nights display at the main Universal Studios store inside City Walk outside the park, and right after you enter the park, the stores on the right have a ton of franchise gear.
Universal had hooded sweatshirts for about $60, t-shirts and baseball caps for about $30. Pretty much standard theme park pricing. But if there was something you really wanted, grab it early. Sizes were picked over by the time we circled back.
One of the attractions I was most excited for at FanFest Nights is Star Trek Red Alert, a walkthrough set on the USS Enterprise D. Now, according to Universal, it even uses screen-used set pieces from Star Trek Picard, including the actual bridge. So this isn't just a themed experience, this is legit the closest you could come to being on a Star Trek set. You'll enter through the illumination area of the park, and you make your way through some familiar Star Trek settings as a mysterious entity starts messing with the ship's systems. We did the Star Trek walkthrough both nights, once during early access and once a little later. On night 1, we didn't head over until about 9:40 and walked right in. The second night, we went right after trying the Tark Legs at Quark's Cafe and got in line about 6 o'clock. We were through the entire attraction by 6:24, so if you're using early access, I think you can hit this one without a crazy wait.
The sets were clean and polished, just as you would expect from Star Trek universe. There is a clear storyline, live actors with full makeup, and it all moves at a pretty quick pace, less than 10 minutes from start to finish. You're not interacting with the sets or props, it's more like a guided show you walk through.
Very much geared towards fans. If you're not a big Trekkie, it might feel a little underwhelming because there's not a ton of engagement or explanation. But standing on the bridge and seeing it all come to life is pretty awesome to me. Food-wise, Starfleet fans can fuel up at Quark's Cafe, which is serving up dishes like Vulcan fritters, Klingon Tark Legs, and Orion Spice funnel cake. And over at 10 Forward Bar, you can grab a themed cocktail like the Seti Eel Margarita or Romulan Ale. Now, I gotta be honest here, Quark's Cafe and the 10 Forward Bar didn't really feel like Star Trek. They're nowhere near the walkthrough, and it's more like they just threw some decorations on the wall and called it a day. If they'd really leaned into the theming, this could have been a killer experience. I tried the Klingon Tark Legs at Quark's Cafe earlier that night. They were pretty tasty. Sweet and meaty pork with some rice that had a bit of heat to it and a little crunch from kimchi.
There was one standout photo op. They've got a captain's chair set up near the entrance to Waterworld with a photographer on site. But other than that, no character photo ops or props out in the open.
Alright, now let's shift gears from the sci-fi world of Star Trek to something a little more magical. Dungeons and Dragons. This is the other big early access attraction at FanFest Nights. The walkthrough experience, Secrets of Waterdeep, is tucked away on the lower lot behind the Transformers ride. You'll journey through the legendary city of Waterdeep as you help stop the infamous beholder, Xanathar. And this is not just a bunch of static props. This one is built to feel like you're stepping into a live campaign, complete with actors, atmosphere, and some seriously impressive effects. This was our first experience on our first night, and even though there was a line forming when we arrived at 5:52, we were inside the experience by 6:06 and out by 6:21. On the second night, we showed up at 7 p.m. and walked right in.
This experience was super immersive. The rooms are packed with set dressing and fantasy details. Tons of things to look at. You're guided through by a handful of live actors, and the whole thing strikes a fun, cheeky tone. You don't have to know a single thing about D&D to enjoy it. But if you do know the game, there are clever nods to spells, tropes, and classic items. The pacing felt just right, not rushed at all, and with just enough time to take it all in.
The effects were standout, especially the boss encounter. We won't spoil anything, but it really sells that fantasy feel. And there's a little crowd interaction too, which added to the charm.
Now, the first Roll Tavern isn't inside the walkthrough. It's actually over near the Jurassic World. And while they added a few touches to give a fantasy vibe, it doesn't really feel like a tavern. Just a standing bar spot with a few tables around the edge.
We tried the Traveler's Rations, the Fireball Dessert, and the Eldritch Blast drink. The rations were 3 meats, 3 cheeses, and some crackers. A good variety of quality cuts, and we learned that hardtack means cracker. Now the Fireball is a sugar bomb, a super dense brownie soaked with jelly and topped with icing. A little spicy, but mostly sweet. And the Eldritch Blast was light and refreshing, lemon lime forward, not too strong, and a nice little surprise.
We actually heard the rations sold out before 7 p.m. on night 1. So if something catches your eye, grab it early. That seems to be on trend with FanFest nights. Some specialty food items, they sell out, and restocks aren't always guaranteed.
Next up, anime fans, this one's for you. Over at the DreamWorks Theater, Universal's brought in Jujutsu Kaisen, Hunger of the Cursed, a 4D experience based on the hit anime. And while it's in Japanese with English subtitles, that's exactly how the fans would prefer it. Subs, not dubs. This is the same experience that debuted at Universal Studios Japan, but now it's here in Hollywood.
This one's part of the early access lineup, so we tried it the first night. We got in line at 6:41 and made it to the theater by 6:57. There was a little pre-show that introduces the characters and sets the scene for the movie.
You can tell it was originally designed as a 3D movie. There's that layered perspective, heavy animation style, but no glasses needed here. Instead, it's all about 4D effects. The seats move, there's blasts of air, even a light mist at one point. It really pulls you into the chaos on screen.
Now, I didn't know the story or the characters, but the effects were a blast. If you're not an anime fan, you'll still enjoy the action and the ride. But if you are a fan, you'll get a lot more out of the story.
We didn't try any of the food here, but the JJK concession cart had some popular items. The line here was always long, especially early in the night. We did notice the lines were finally shorter near the very end of the night, so you could try to wait, but things could be sold out.
And if you're an anime fan who's more into pirates than curses, this next zone is for you. Just steps away from JJK, the One Piece area was one of the busiest parts of FanFest night. It's tucked into a pretty narrow section of the upper lot. It was way more crowded than Universal seemed ready for.
I think they easily could have used the Universal Plaza. There was plenty of space over there and hardly anyone around, even though there was a live band playing. But over here, it was packed. Food lines as well as the meet and greets stayed pretty full all night long.
That said, the character performers were awesome. You could tell the team members playing Luffy, Zoro, and Nami were having a blast and really brought those characters to life. They stuck to one photo spot though. No roaming or story moments, just a chance to pose and smile.
And the environment felt right. Sets and costumes kept the cartoony, vibrant One Piece vibe, and I think fans were eating it up. You could even get a custom Pirate Wanted poster, $45 for black and white, or $65 for full color.
We stood in line for 15 minutes just to get to the register at Sanjay's Galley, only to find out there were no gluten-free options. A lot of the dishes sounded like they could be, but they weren't. The pickup line after that was just as long, and the crowd never let up.
Next up is the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, which is located just past the One Piece zone. Honestly, nothing much has changed here, and didn't really need to. Hogsmeade is already one of the most immersive areas in the park, but for FanFest nights, they did add a few magical extras.
We never found a posted schedule for when the magical creatures would be out, so we just popped in throughout the night to see who was around. There's a Niffler, a baby Norwegian Ridgeback dragon, and an Akami. And their handlers were amazing. They had little storylines and interacted with the guests really well.
Some folks stuck a little too close to the creatures, but it didn't bother us much. The real magic, experiencing Hogsmeade without the usual crowds. This area of the park closes at 5:30 and reopens around 7. We headed in right at 7:15 on night 1, and it felt like we had the place all to ourselves.
No wait for butterbeer at Hogshead, and Ollivanders was still running with nobody in line. It was wild to see it empty. Later that night, we caught the new to Hollywood Hogwarts Always projection show. It ran every 30 minutes between 9 and 11:30, and it takes you through a full school year. It ends with one of the houses winning the cup, a different house each time.
Now, the Three Broomsticks has an exclusive dining experience to FanFest nights, and it's reservation only. For $40, you get a 3-course meal. We booked our reservations days ahead of time through the Universal app for 8 p.m. You wait in line to order, you get your drink and appetizer, then they seat you and bring out the rest of the meal.
When we first got there, about 7, we asked if they could accommodate food allergies, and the team members assured us that they would. But when we got to the register, after waiting 20 minutes in line, they told us only one item was actually gluten-free. It was frustrating, especially since we made a point to check earlier that night.
And I don't know how long folks waited after that. When we left, we saw people still waiting for appetizers and drinks who were standing there when we walked in. So this could easily eat up 40 minutes or more of your night. It's a sit-down experience, sure, but it's also a time commitment.
And from what we saw left on the table, most people barely touched their appetizers, and even the golden snitch dessert was only partially eaten. The trifle cups were empty, and so were what we think was fish and chips, so take that for what it's worth.
Now, over in Super Nintendo World, they didn't have to do much either for a FanFest, just like Hogsmeade. This place already feels like you're inside a video game, but they did add a few extras to make the night even more interactive.
They clear everyone out at 5:30 and reopened at 7 p.m. And let me tell you, people were ready. The line to get back in was massive, stretching way up towards the escalator.
You'll see the usual characters, Mario, Luigi, and Princess Peach, but they also added Yoshi to the mix. And new for FanFest is a scavenger hunt. You get a green Yoshi headband at the entrance and set off to collect stickers around the land.
Now, this isn't super complicated. Just look for the folks with stickers. There'll be a line of people around them pointing to the hidden Yoshi eggs nearby. Get in line, point to the egg, get your sticker. And when you have all the egg stickers, which allows you to meet a special color Yoshi.
We didn't partake of any of the new items at Toadstool's Cafe this trip. It does require a reservation even during FanFest nights. You can't book through the website or the app. There's a sign out front with a QR code to scan day of. For FanFest, the sign was outside the land while the area was closed, so you could reserve early, or you can scan the QR code on the screen the day of your visit to make your reservation. This was easily one of the busiest areas of the park. Tons of people just hanging out and having fun. Even without doing the cafe or games, it's still a blast to explore, and Mario Kart was practically a walk-on.
This one isn't a full zone. Just a cute little bonus tucked across from Quark's Cafe near the front of the park. It's a Wicked-themed meet and greet where you can pose with either Glinda or Elphaba.
They only have one character out at a time, so who you get depends on when you swing by. We didn't hop in line ourselves, but the wait didn't look too bad.
There's a backdrop and lighting setup, and the whole thing's right next to the Wicked merchandise store. It's a nice extra stop between those bigger experiences.
This won't take much time out of your night, and it's easy to find since it's near the front. If you got a few minutes to spare, or just want one more photo to remember the night, it's worth a peek. Of course, we saved the best for last, friends. If you're a Back to the Future fan, and honestly, even if you're not, this is the absolute highlight of FanFest nights.
You'll hop on the studio tour tram and head down to the real Courthouse Square, the actual filming location from the original movie. And as soon as you arrive, you hear the music, you see the Lion Estate billboard, it just hits you. Total goosebump.
They've done up the whole area like it's 1955, with actors playing out scenes from the movie all around you. Between the performances, the characters' ad-lib, and interaction with the crowd, which they are amazing at, this is a complete immersive experience. We showed up around 10:40 the first night and didn't leave till almost midnight.
Now this isn't a walkthrough or a ride. You actually get to be in Hill Valley. You're free to wander, dance, hang out with the cast, and yes, there is a live band. Bring your dancing shoes because they do want you to join in.
The show runs on a 45-minute loop with no posted schedule, so you could walk in at any point. The finale kicks off with a movie being projected onto the courthouse with full sound and lighting effects. Then lightning strikes the clock tower, and there's a few moments of silence before the actors seemingly appear out of nowhere, and the show starts all over again.
And just a heads up, there's a snack cart and a bathroom tucked away behind the carnival games, but really nothing else is down there. So take care of food and bathroom before you hop on the tram.
Photo ops? Plenty. There's a DeLorean in Doc's garage with all of his clocks, and Einstein, who's a very good boy. There's also the fire trail photo op with the iconic spinning license plate, and the actors are always walking around and happy to interact with the crowd in between the major story points.
Now for food, Back to the Future is actually based up top at Mel's Diner. It already has that 1950s vibe, so it kind of makes sense. But it's a little small for seating. We ended up eating there after 3 failed attempts to find gluten-free options elsewhere.
They had themed items like the flux capacitor patty melt, Doc Brown's chicken pot pie, and a few shakes and cookies. I had the patty melt without the dressing, and Gina had a burger with a gluten-free bun. It was a standard cafeteria-style burger. The sourdough and grilled onions gave the patty melt a little extra flavor. They were fine, but, not worth making a special trip for. If you've got food allergies, especially gluten, you're gonna want to hear this, friends. From about 8 p.m. until 9:30, we went on a wild goose chase trying to find something safe to eat. We were told 3 broomsticks could accommodate food allergies, but after waiting in line, we found that only one item on the prefix menu for $40 was actually gluten-free.
So we went looking for other options, tried the one-piece food counter, which had dishes that sounded gluten-free, but when we made it up to the register, the team member said they couldn't guarantee it. They mentioned cross-contamination in the kitchen and told us don't risk it.
Then a team member pointed us towards the Minion Cafe, saying they had a gluten-free grilled cheese. We got there, no such thing. The only option was a Caesar salad.
Now, by the time we got to Mel's Diner, we were just trying to get something. They had a gluten-free bun, but only for the standard burger, not for any of the themed items. So that's what I ordered. It was fine, but it's just not what we wanted.
Look, Universal doesn't usually have a ton of gluten-free options, and with the way the team members were talking about cross-contamination in the kitchens during the special event, honestly, we recommend folks with food allergies bring their own food. It's not worth the stress, the lines, or the risk.
FanFest Nights isn't just about theme zones. Universal kept most of the rides open too, and honestly, that was a nice bonus.
Yep, everything we saw was basically a walk-on both nights. The Secret Life of Pets, Mario Kart, even the Mummy, no virtual queues needed. It made it super easy to ride things as we explored.
It was a little too cold for Jurassic World, and the Transformer ride was closed during our visit, but we didn't feel like we missed out. The stuff that was open was easy to hit as we moved through the park.
Obviously, the studio tour wasn't running its usual loop. It was just taking folks down to Hill Valley for the Back to the Future experience. But we had a fun surprise on the ride back. We actually passed through an active film set for the new project called The Burbs. That was pretty cool.
And if you're wondering about Express Pass, honestly, you really didn't need one. Everything was moving so smoothly that even popular rides didn't have lines. Overall, the vibe at FanFest Nights was super chill. The park felt empty most of the night, except for a few hot spots, like the one-piece meet and greets and people lining up right before 7.
They pumped music throughout the park, and each zone had its own playlist, which added a lot to the mood. Hill Valley and One Piece were really well lit and lively, while the rest of the park kept that familiar nighttime theme park feel.
There were 2 spots for live music. In Universal Plaza, they had a band playing 80s covers. Down in the lower lot by Jurassic World, they had a DJ. It was still easy to move around, and it never actually was packed.
We didn't feel the need to stay until close since we had 2 nights and never really felt rushed. But you absolutely could do everything in one night. It just depends on how long you want to hang out in each area.
If you need a quiet spot to relax, there were several, like near the Minions Cafe, the French Bistro, and the corner food stand outside Transformers. Nice little breaks if you were looking to slow down.
The crowd was really diverse too. You had everyone from Trekkies to Straw Hats. This event pulls fans from all over and across generations. And if you're in line with someone who loves the same IP, you're going to make fast friends.
So if you're into anime, Star Trek, or Back to the Future, you'll be in great company. Sure, you could come for the rides, but let's be real, that's not what this event is about. It's about the experiences, the fandoms, and the low-stress energy.
If you're a Back to the Future fan, this is the event for you, no question. Make the effort to come out because I don't think you're going to find an experience like this anywhere else. Anime fans, you'll be in great company. Trekkies, it's kind of cool. I just wish there was more. If you're looking for low crowds in Hogsmeade or Super Nintendo World, this is the time to go. And if you're hoping for that tabletop style D&D campaign, well, this isn't quite it. But if a stroll through Waterdeep sounds fun, I don't think you'll be disappointed.
There were definitely some surprises. The One Piece area slammed all night. Hill Valley packed with energy. But even with those pockets of activity, the park felt really chill overall. Universal Plaza had room to breathe, and a lot of spots like Minion Cafe and French Bistro were downright peaceful.
Highlights? Hill Valley, no contest. That was the most immersive, emotional, and just plain fun part of the night. D&D and Star Trek, they both left me wanting a little more. Cool concepts, well done, but I was hoping for more depth or maybe just more time in each experience.
Biggest letdowns? Food allergies. The lack of safe, reliable options made it really frustrating at times. If you've got dietary restrictions, just bring your own snacks.
We did early access both nights, and I'll say this. If you're only coming for one night and really want to hit all the zones, it's worth it. But if you've got more than one night, or you're mostly just coming to soak in the vibes, I think general admission will probably get you through everything just fine.
The food lines got long, some stalls actually ran out of items, and certain zones could have used more immersion. But for a first-time event, it was still really a lot of fun.
So yeah, come for the low crowds, the chance to hang out in Hill Valley, and the chance to see your favorite fandoms come to life. Just know it's not perfect yet, but it's got a ton of heart, and I'd absolutely go again if they bring it back next year.
We hope this video helped you decide whether FanFest Nights is worth it. If it did, drop us a like, and if you've got questions or want to share your own experience, leave us a comment. We love hearing from you.
If you're new around here and into theme parks, fandoms, and travel with a budget in mind, hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you along. As always, we really appreciate the friends that we've made here on YouTube and your continued support. We love hearing your thoughts and answering your questions in the comments below. So until next time, friends, cheers!